All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome into episode 2 of the brand new series where we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 players from each position that the New York Jets should be looking at this offseason. So this episode, it's going to be about the wide receivers, a huge position of need. I expect the Jets to be really active when it comes to this position. So with that being said, let's dive in. Player number 1 on this list is about to play in his first Super Bowl tomorrow. It's Chris Godwin of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When you're taking a look at Godwin's young career so far, remember, he's only 24 years old. He was a mid-round pick out of Penn State just a couple of seasons ago here. He hasn't been playing for too long. When you're looking at what he's done, the production, it's pretty respectable. The numbers are consistent. The yards, the catches, the touchdowns. He had 7 touchdowns back in 2018. Number rose to 9 in 2019, and then in 2020 it fell back down to 7, but we have to take into consideration that he only played in 12 games with a brand new quarterback coming in the building. Okay, so we're looking at Chris Godwin, and even though he has great numbers, right, he's a wide receiver that consistently produces. He's a reliable guy. Nobody really wants to put him in that top 5 range, that top 10 range. We don't really hear people comparing Chris Godwin to Julio Jones or Devontae Adams or DeAndre Hopkins or Allen Robinson or Kenny Golladay or Adam Thielen or Stephon Diggs. Like, nobody really compares those two. Chris Godwin's kind of viewed as like a number 2 or in that second tier. Well, this is the thing right here that makes Chris Godwin so enticing. This is what gets me fired up about Godwin. You're looking at the situation down in Tampa Bay. Chris Godwin has never been the number 1 option for the Bucs. He hasn't. It's been the Mike Evans show since he was drafted. Mike Evans has been Batman. Chris Godwin has been Robin. All right. I mean, look at the roster this season. How many mouths do they have to feed now? Antonio Brown, Scotty Miller, Brate, Gronk, Mike Evans, Ronald Jones out of the backfield. We all know Brady loves to check it down to the running backs. Chris Godwin has been consistent. He's been a staple for the Bucs offense, and he hasn't even been the premier wide receiver at 24 years old. That's what makes Chris Godwin so attractive. Now, as far as a potential fit with the Jets is concerned, you're looking at his fit in the Kyle Shanahan, Mike LaFleur system. He's a great fit. Why? Because he has great hands. He can separate, and he's fantastic after the catch. Fantastic after the catch. Okay, so Chris Godwin, you're gonna have to pay a steep price to get him. I'm assuming it's gonna be somewhere between like $15 and $18 million annually to get Chris Godwin in the building. But the good news is he still hasn't hit his prime. He's a productive wide receiver, and he's really, I don't want to say he's separating himself from the pack in Tampa, but he's putting up great numbers with a lot of mouths to feed. Okay, so Chris Godwin is number 1 on this list. Wide receiver number 2 on this list is Curtis Samuel of the Carolina Panthers. Now, Samuel right now, he's not the traditional prototypical X wide receiver. He's more of a versatile chess piece that any offensive coordinator would love to have. I think the best word to describe Samuel is versatile, right? You can line him up on the outside. You can line him up on the inside. You can literally hand the ball off to him. He's taking snaps at running back. You can send him on end arounds, right? Reverses, throw screens to him. He's one of these guys that you just need to get the football to him and then just back off and let him work. I think he excels in his role, if that makes sense. I feel like as the years go by, the game starts to slow down for Curtis Samuel, and he really knows how to attack a defense and knows how to play to his strengths. You look at the receiving yards. I mean, they go up every single year. He had over 850 receiving yards this season. He's coming off the best season of his career. You're taking a look at the rushing yards. Yeah, rushing yards for a wide receiver. I know it's weird, but those go up every single year. He had over 200 rushing yards on the ground this season. So as far as a potential fit for the New York Jets is concerned, does he fit the system? The answer is yes. Why? Because he works really well after the catch. He can make guys miss in open field, who can create separation between himself and defensive backs, right? You look at the prototypical Kyle Shanahan West Coast receiver, it's Deebo Samuel, it's Brandon Ayuk, it's Cooper Kupp, it's Robert Woods, right? It's guys that can separate, it's guys that are versatile, guys that can do a lot of different things, guys that work really well with the ball in their hands. So I think Curtis Samuel checks a lot of different boxes for the Jets. I know he's not a receiver for everybody, but I feel like with this offense that will be installed with the team, I think it makes a lot of sense. The third wide receiver on this list is the big money one. This is the guy that everybody wants. He's a marquee free agent, arguably one of, if not the best free agents on the market or set to hit the open market. He's a top 10 wide receiver in the league right now. It's Allen Robinson of the Chicago Bears. All right, Robinson brings essentially everything that you want to the wide receiver position. Hands, production, touchdown, big playability, box out ability, wins on one-on-one matchups. Pretty much unstoppable, right? And the funny thing is, the crazy thing is, he has been playing with subpar quarterback play for his entire career. Foles, Bortles, Trubisky, he hasn't played with a top 15 quarterback, and he's putting up elite numbers. Robinson's coming off of a season with 102 catches. 102 catches this season, and I mean, we all know the struggles that the Bears offense has had. All right, but Robinson still finds a way to produce. He still finds a way to get open. And if he's not open, you throw it up to him and he comes down with the ball. All right, consistent playmaker. Now, I will say this. He hasn't really lived up to that 2015 magical season with Jacksonville, right? That was the season that really put him onto the scene, because Robinson, like Godwin, was a mid-round pick out of Penn State. But again, he's even though he hasn't played up to that level of greatness, he's still been a fantastic wide receiver nonetheless. He's also dealt with a couple injuries that you might have to take a look at, but all in all, Robinson's essentially the full package at wide receiver. Now, as far as a potential fit with the New York Jets is concerned, I don't want to be that guy, but when your offense is dead last, when you don't have any talent at wide receiver outside of Denzel Mims and Crowder, when you have a question mark at quarterback and a so-so run game, you find a way to make it work. If the Jets land Allen Robinson, it's not like we're not going to know how to use him, all right? And I get that the mindset or the narrative is that for the Kyle Shanahan system, you need a shifty wide receiver that moves well in space, that does really well after the catch, and that's a fact, right? Those are the staple wide receivers that the Niners have had a ton of success with. But think back to when Kyle Shanahan was in Atlanta with Julio Jones. He doesn't really fit that bill. He's not 5'10" with extreme quickness. He's a traditional X wide receiver. I believe if the Jets were to sign Allen Robinson, we would see a similar package installed. Again, the Jets aren't bringing over Kyle Shanahan. We're bringing over his offense. So it's up to Mike LaFleur, Robert Saleh, and these guys to really put Robinson in the best position to have success and figure out how to use him. But again, whenever you have when your offense is a complete joke, it's laughable at best. 32, literally 32 in the league. If you have an opportunity to go out and sign a top 10 wide receiver, you make it work. You make it work. So Robinson to the Jets, we need to keep our eye on him. The Jets have enough money to pay him his big contract as well. We've seen him dominate with two teams, multiple quarterbacks that are bad. So I think it makes a lot of sense. Wide receiver number 4 on this list is, from a fan's perspective, right? From like just me being a fan of football, he's my favorite receiver in the entire NFL. It's Kenny Golladay of the Detroit Lions. Kenny Golladay right now is one of the most underappreciated receivers in the league today. All right, that's my take. I feel like he does not get enough credit. He's been Matthew Stafford's security blanket, his safety net, for the last couple of seasons, right? He's a big play machine. He can hurt you down the field. He can hurt you intermediate. He can hurt you in the short passing game. He does a great job of boxing out smaller corners, winning on one-on-one matchups down the sideline. Does a great job against double coverage, right? When he's getting challenged by not only just a corner, but his safety down the field. Matthew Stafford just hucks the ball up there. Galladay's coming down with it, okay? Underappreciated, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons in 2018 and 2019. Now, he was hurt the majority of 2020. Let's not sweep that under the rug. But as far as Golladay, projecting Golladay to another team, especially the Jets, a team that doesn't have really much to work with on the offensive side of the football, I expect Golladay to get big money, a lot of targets, a lot of touchdowns, a lot of catches, if he could stay healthy. Now, I don't want to say Galladay's some injury-prone guy or anything like that. It's not like he's missing like 8 games a year every season he's played. But the injuries in 2020, it kept him out a long time. It was just kind of hazy. And maybe it was just because of the whole Matt Patricia thing, and I felt like every player was hurt on Detroit last year. But it was just kind of a strange situation. Maybe he just didn't want to play for Patricia. Who knows? But I think at the end of the day, Golladay has so much upside. He has so much talent. He has so much production already. And he's kind of overshadowed right now by the Chris Godwins, by the Allen Robinsons of the world. And I feel like Golladay, with the right team, will absolutely explode. In my opinion, he is a top 6 wide receiver. I get that might be a stretch for a lot of people out there. But when I personally watch Kenny Golladay play, I'm essentially starstruck, right? I'm just amazed. He's my style of wide receiver. Been a big fan of Golladay for a long time now, so cannot wait to see where he goes. But he should be on the Jets' radar. The 5th, but not final receiver on this list, because we actually have a bonus at the end, It's Dede Westbrook from the Jacksonville Jaguars. You could be thinking to yourself, Dede Westbrook, he's not a number 1. He's not a number 2. He's not a top 5 guy. He's not even at the caliber of a Chris Godwin, a Kenny Golladay, and Allen Robinson. Why is he on this list? That's the exact point. Because he is a cheap option, because he is electrifying. He is 28 years old and he's a tough wide receiver. He's a guy who slips through the cracks, a guy who everybody kind of forgets about, everybody kind of glosses over. Everybody, Golladay and Robinson, all these guys are taking the limelight as far as, free agent attraction. Dede Westbrook, on the other hand, has at times been one of the most fun players on the field to watch. I think right now Westbrook, when you're looking at the Jets roster, Westbrook would easily slide into this Jets wide receiving room and be the number two wide receiver option today. Denzel Mims, stud. Jamison Crowder, stud. Outside of those two guys, who do we really have? Robbie Anderson's coming off an 1,000-yard season with the Carolina Panthers. He's not an option anymore. Brashad Perryman, complete disappointment. He's a free agent. Who else? Braxton Berrios? Do we want to? Is Braxton Berrios going to be the number 2 on this team? He can't even play on the outside. I think right now, Dede Westbrook, if the Jets say miss out on every wide receiver, if they don't feel comfortable paying, shelling out $16, $17, $18 million annually to one of these big guys, you can go sign Dede Westbrook for way cheap. He's so much of a cheaper option, all right? Again, at times, he's been electrifying. He can hurt you down the field. He can take on double teams. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He's 6 foot, but he's under 200 pounds. I think the Jets need some pop. They need some electricity on the offensive side of the football. We don't have any playmakers. A guy who can catch the ball and run 80 yards and score. We kind of had that with Robbie Anderson. I guess that was what the hope was going to be with Brashad Perryman, but it wasn't there. All right? And we have to be honest with ourselves. As much as we wanted Perryman to work out, he didn't. So Dede Westbrook, I think right now is a solid. He's a cheap option. He fits the system, and he's an electrifying player at 28 years old who you can get for, I want to say, under $10 million a season. So just another name to keep your eye on. So now we're at the bonus. And this is going to be a guy right now that a lot of Jets fans would love it if we brought him in, and a lot of Jets fans would hate it if we brought him in. It's controversial, but that's why I like doing the bonus one. All right, this is a guy right now who brings a lot of things to the table, a lot of attractive qualities to the table: size, production, yards, catches, touchdowns, ability to separate, ability to play on the outside and on the inside, has a lot of production doing both of those things. He gets open really, really well. It's Juju Smith-Schuster of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Juju Smith is a complete Swiss Army knife for any offensive coordinator out there, right? He can do a lot of different things. Again, he can hurt you on the outside down the field. He can hurt you on slants, screens, work in the slot on mesh and crossing patterns. That's where I feel like he's at his best. That's where I feel like he's had the most success as well. At one point in time, 2018, 1,400 yards receiving. Mind-blowing. Today, he's 24 years old. 2018, that means he was 22. At 22 years old, he was lighting the league on fire. That's why he got all these fans. That's why he got this huge hype train going. And then in 2019, he definitely fell off a little bit. Still a good year nonetheless. It's not like he was a complete scrub or just dropping every single pass thrown to him and he was a hindrance to the offense. But definitely a down year, 500 yards receiving, something along those lines. And then 2020 rolls around and kind of the hype went away. He was still a valuable piece to the Steelers offense, but definitely an offense that they have a lot of other mouths to feed as well, kind of like Tampa. I mean, so many different guys with, James Washington and who else? Deontay Johnson, one of my favorite players in the league, even though he experienced some drops late in the year, which kind of irritated me. But nonetheless, Juju Smith-Schuster is an electrifying player that the New York Jets could go out and pick up because he fits the system perfectly. He can do anything that an offensive coordinator asks of Juju to do. The only downside is Juju Smith off the field. Is football a priority to him? Does he care more about, gaming and social media? Because at times, Juju Smith-Schuster is he's getting a reputation around the league that is just like, who's this immature kid? Kind of like Odell Beckham, but with Odell, it was a little bit more scary, I want to say, with like him like being kind of violent on the sidelines. But with Juju, it's more so like, okay, who's this, 15-year-old kid on the sidelines that's really talented but just cares more about TikTok or dancing or doing things for likes on social media, right? That's the downside of Juju Smith-Schuster, is that it's like, is the risk worth the reward kind of thing. That's kind of it's a roll of the dice. Smith will produce, but if he signs to not only just the Jets but any team out there, will he be a distraction? Will he care more about social media than wins, than catches, all that kind of stuff? So that's the main question that you have to ask of him. There's a lot of people that don't like Juju Smith around the league, because of this season, because of how the Steelers looked when they were just losing all of these different games and the offense just couldn't get going. But I mean, at the same time, he has so many tools that you can work with. So it's just a maturity thing. It's just a maturity thing with Smith-Schuster. All right. So if you can work around that, if he's, maybe maturing in the offseason, I doubt it. We'll see what happens with that. So let me know your thoughts, especially on that one. But all in all, I appreciate you guys watching, sticking this video out to the end. I know it was a longer one here, but I appreciate it, man. I really, really do. So thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Who are some wide receivers that you want to see? And as always, thanks so much for sticking with this channel, and go Jets.